to talk today a little bit about what I learned when getting a foster care placement. We just had a couple of little girls come into our home a few weeks ago. That's why I hadn't been on here in quite a while. We actually were very busy and had our hands full with them and that new placement. And it was two little girls. They were sisters, and one was 2, one was 4. And when I got the first little girl, it was on a Sunday, and things were okay with that. She had some behavioral issues, and it was kind of challenging because I had never really dealt with the foster children. We have a lot more rules as far as what we can do as far as disciplining. So it was a little bit challenging to try to maneuver around those behavioral issues. She's coming right back from a visitation with her mom, so it was even more challenging, and trying to deal with her behavior. When they come back from a visitation with their parents, they generally are misbehaving and just really having a hard time with that transition. So that's what we were dealing with having the first sister come in. She was 2. And a couple days later, we had her sister come in who was 4, and she was great. She was very compliant, and it was easy to deal with her behavior. But the thing is, we learned was when we learned about the visitation schedule with the first one, we did not learn about the visitation schedule with the second one. Even though they're sisters, they didn't have the same schedule. So when the sister was dropped off a couple days later, we learned that the visitation schedule was actually, it was throughout the weekend, but we had to drop off the girl in the morning on Saturday, pick her up on Saturday night. Again on Sunday, drop her off in the morning on Sunday, and drop her back off on Sunday night. So basically, the visitation schedule would not allow us to go anywhere. And being that it's summer, that really kind of puts a kink in our plans, because we generally go to the beach or do things on the weekends, and we're not always home. So we didn't really quite know how to handle that, and I was kind of put on the spot because I didn't know that when she showed up. And so yeah, that sometimes happens. But the one thing that I really learned is when you are trying to decide on whether or not to take a placement in, you need to ask a lot of questions. So that's the first thing I learned, is you need to ask questions. And one of the questions, a couple of the questions that I learned that you need to ask is, why is this child or children coming into new placement? What is the situation around it and all that? And then learn about as much as you can about that, and that will kind of give you an idea of what, how to decide from there. Because with this one, they actually had an OHAN report on the last foster parent, which means that there was a report that there was abuse or neglect from the other foster parent. So that either was legitimate or not legitimate. Sometimes the biological mom or somebody in that household, especially when they're going for visitations, will kind of pick at things and say, oh, she has a spot on her leg or this or that, and they'll pick on the foster parent because they think that it's going to help their situation. And it's just they make up things, and sometimes not, but sometimes they make up things. And that kind of made me a little nervous, because I'm thinking, well, if they have a report against the last foster parent, what's going to stop them from picking on the way I am taking care of them as well? And just to give you an idea, when we had the 2-year-old come in on Sunday night, we had learned that she had been in the emergency room. The mom took her into the emergency room because she got a mosquito bite on her ear, and I couldn't even see it. So it was so small that you couldn't even see it. And just those little things kind of give you a glimpse into the mentality that the mom is going through and the situation that's going on with the biological mom and the foster parent and all that stuff. So it kind of made me a little nervous. The other thing that I learned that you need to do is ask about visitation. If they're going through regular visitation and they are going through a transition time, the visitation is more frequent and they are spending the night over to their biological mom, parents' house. And that's what these girls were doing. But I assumed that both of the girls had the same schedule, and that's not always the case. So you need to ask about those questions if they are doing the same schedule or if they're on different schedules. And make sure you know that schedule, because sometimes that schedule won't fit into your schedule as a foster parent. And that is a key deciding factor as to whether or not you're going to take that child in for placement. I also learned very quickly, as you can tell by the way I'm talking, that this placement wasn't right for us. And that's something that I learned, is not every placement is right for your situation and your family. And the more questions you ask before you accept a foster placement, the better you'll be as far as being able to determine the right thing for the children and for yourself. Because these girls came into care with us, and being that we didn't know all the facts, they were into care with us for about a couple weeks, a little bit more maybe, and they got very attached to us and they were very happy here, and we were trying to work things out the best we could to be able to keep them long term. We really wanted to. We really also got attached to them, and we really would love to have given them a stable home and given them what they needed, but it couldn't be worked out that way, and it made things very difficult because they wanted to stay here. The one little girl, I was tucking him into bed at night, the older girl, she was telling me, she was basically begging me to keep them in our home and not to take them, to allow them to go into another home. I was trying to help them transition into the next home that they were going into, because we knew at that time that we couldn't keep them. And she was in tears, and she wanted to stay here, and it was hard for me, it was hard for her, and I came down in tears talking with my husband, because it hurt my heart to know that this little girl wanted to stay with us so badly and that we couldn't do anything about that. So also, when you are caught in a situation like that, we were, where you have a placement that just isn't working for you and for your family, it's better to contact the social worker, contact everybody involved to have them put in a different home that will work, because you are under stress. When it doesn't work, you're under stress, the kids are under stress, and it causes a very difficult time all the way around. And even though it's hard to make that decision for your family and for the children, it's the best thing altogether to be able to get them in a home that they fit in with their schedules and with everything, all their needs and everything like that. So I learned very quickly that every placement isn't right for our family, and if we ask questions, we'll find that out more so before we accept the placement. And if we accept the placement and it's not right for our family, it is possible to find a replacement for the children. So I hope that helps. I hope that gives you a little bit of an inside scoop to fostering. Don't forget to subscribe, to give me a thumbs up if you like what I'm talking about in this video. Also, comment down below, because I would love to hear from you. Also, look me up on Facebook, Instagram, and on my website. All that information is at the end of the video, so stay tuned, and we'll talk to you soon.